So
Hello, gentlemen. What's up? Oh,
What
Brian, you looking
up?
fresh with a lineup is going. You got a
Yo.
button up on or something? Ooh,
Yeah.
you go to
Boy is
Sunday
clean.
brunch, my man. All right, all right.
I had my quarterly haircut.
Quarterly.
I'm good for 3 months.
Nice. That's it.
Sav, good
Ready
morning.
for the holidays. What's cracking, Wes?
Wait, you went on some kind of big thing yesterday? You said you were out and about?
Oh yeah, man. I don't know. I went to the movies yesterday. Not yesterday, but went to go see Inside Out, which we're gonna talk about on
For
one
sure.
of our episodes. I went to this 85 South comedy show.
Oh, what's that?
So it's these. You're not gonna know who any of these people are.
Okay.
But
Try him.
Just shout them out anyway.
Let's see.
Have you heard of
Shout them
you
out
should
anyways.
Okay,
Please make up names.
Okay,
and act like
have
they're
you heard
real.
of the internet personality comedian DC Youngfly?
Nope.
Young dude.
Yo, you
has
don't
like
know
a
DC
tattoo.
Youngfly?
Wait, Brian, do you know DC Youngfly?
No, I'm just messing with you guys.
No, but it's him. He became famous on like Vine and social media, doing like funny reaction videos, and then this
Vine
other guy.
has not been around since 2014, Sav. What are
I
we
know,
doing
but
here?
but he's been around for a while. Like he started doing Vines, and then he ended up being on Wild 'N Out as a regular cast member with Nick Cannon. He really built up his like just his game. But him and these two other like comedian guys. But the show is basically like a mostly improv show. It's kind of like them BS and joking on stage. They do a lot of improvisational songs with the band, but a lot of it is them telling jokes, riffing off each other, but then also effing with the crowd, doing insane crowd work.
Were you front row and they pointed you out?
Thank God.
They're like, look at Cornell West over
Thank
here.
Goodness, no, but boy, they had an older looking dude and they went in on him. It was like his name Otis, an older black dude named Otis. They went in. It was hilarious. They had the security dudes on stage. They were grilling them.
The like security guys?
The ushers who got to just stand there by the stage and just kind of be like, they were on their heads.
Where was this held at?
Little Caesars Arena.
So where the Pistons play.
Yeah, it was like sold out. It was a nice show.
Oh man.
God forbid. And, for the record, this is like a very black comedy show.
For sure.
Woo, they had a white dude sitting up in the front in the roast section where they give you a hard time. I was like, woof, you are a brave man.
He wanted it.
Yeah, he was ready.
If you are a white dude in the front seats of a mostly black comedy show where they are doing crowd work, woof, that man did not stand a chance. Honestly, every white person in the near part of that stage was for the record, everybody got cooked no matter what. And they even said like everyone was getting cooked.
Yeah.
But if you were white, you're not gonna be able to fly under the radar.
Nice. Have you ever seen that Key and Peele sketch?
Kids?
Yeah, you know the one that I'm talking about where there's
legendary
like
one.
where Jordan Peele is like so visibly messed up that he's asking the comedian look over his way,
comic.
and roast him, and it's like it would be like wrong to insult him, like that's how bad it is.
Yes,
I remember that dude he's trying to look everywhere but that guy. It's like
it was great. So it was very much like on that level, but in reverse.
Nice.
It was but I did that. It was a great time. I had never seen them. I heard of them. I had friends who talked about them. I kind of just went in not knowing like what to expect, and my face was hurting from all the laughing.
That's awesome.
So
the only time
I'll share, but I can't share in this space because it was kind of inappropriate.
The only time I've laughed so hard at like a comedian show or whatever, a comedy show, I went to see
podcast we recorded.
Well, that too. I mean, always with you. But I went to see the Kings of Comedy in a movie theater. Oh my God, I was
so like Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac.
I saw the movie, but it was in a theater, and I was dying. Oh my God, like I could not stop laughing. Like the Bernie Mac stuff, just broke me. I was just like so broken by the end of that movie. Man. And I'm feeling superior to you two gentlemen because, like every good Instagrammer knows. Yeah. You have to, let people know when you exercise. And I went for a run this morning. It was 40 minutes. It wasn't the fastest, but I was out there. I came back. So before we've recorded, I've already got my exercise in for today. And, that makes me better than you two gentlemen. So I just wanted you to know that and our listeners to know that.
As long as your lung doesn't collapse during this recording.
Oh my God. 2005, bro. That was awful. Brian, did you come visit me? You did, right?
I did visit you. Yeah. I think someone dragged me. It's like, oh my God, the student hospital, that place is far. I feel bad for my boy, but
it was not far.
It was like, what you want me to do? I can't fix your lung.
Yeah. But I was glad for the support. He came out to see me.
I didn't understand. Like, I was confused by the idea of a collapsed lung at that point in my life.
Too.
Where I was like,
me
wait,
too.
so it like fell a little? So it's like in his stomach? Is that what happened? I was so befuddled.
Isn't that a gunshot injury? Like, I didn't get shot by anything. Like, what happened here? And the doctor's like, no, that's not what. No, so collapsed lung, no fun. Don't get it. It's very painful.
However, what I do recall is that a certain co-ed from our school, a young Jen Tran, visited multiple times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she was probably the first person I called after my mom. Like, I told my mom, but she's in California, and I think I called Jen. I was like, I need something. I don't even know what I said, but she came and visited for a while, and that was great. So props to good friends who later becomes wife.
This was friend zone era Jen, mind you. That's a key part of the information.
Because didn't Jen friend zone you at first?
Oh yeah, for sure. We're
hard
in the friend zone.
So what you did to get? That's all. I know I'm sorry.
So he punctured his own lung. That's what happened.
Look, I know we're getting off task and we have a pod, but like, y'all, man.
Speaking of emotions,
you were a hard friend zone. Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
We were still friends. It was.
I know
that,
fine. But like,
she showed up.
Hard friend zone.
She did show up.
I mean, me and Wes were friends. I did not show up.
You did show up.
I showed up once.
What did Wes do to make her say, hold on, Wes might be kind of bad?
Well, there was no romantic hookup after that, so I don't know.
Did she or did she not jump in the hospital bed with you?
No, did not.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's focus.
That was also the only time I peed on myself, so good times.
When she visited?
No, that was on my own. That was on my own. The nurse had to come in and help me after that. It was good times.
I don't know how that happened, or like what are we supposed to gather from this, Wes?
Anyways,
it was not a problem with my bladder. It was that I was clumsy.
Anyways,
so I'll tell you, it's easy. I was trying to pee into one of those like containers they give you. You just pee on the bed, which is surprisingly hard to do because you're used to peeing in. No, it was a container. It was just like
or a cup.
I don't know. It was a container. It looked like a bigger bottle thing. Anyway, so you're like trying to pee in it, and you like, have you ever tried to pee in it like while you're sitting down in a bed? It's like mentally like there's a block, right? Like you can't do it. So I'm like, this is weird. And then I finally like took like whatever 10 minutes to like do this process, go pee, do the thing, and I got it, put it on the side, started pulling my pants, and I knocked the bottle like off balance, and it spilled on my pants. So I spent 10 minutes trying to fucking get over this thing and pee into the bottle, successfully did it, and then just pissed myself anyways. So, good times. That was a waste of time.
So Wes has actually been crafting this lie for the past 20 years, because really he just pissed himself. There's a bottle and I knocked it over. And no, come on, man. We know
Hands
you just
God,
like
actually
you just let it go.
I have nothing left to add.
It was the stupidest way to pee on yourself, let me tell you. All right, Inside Out.
No wonder you were friend zoned. Anyway,
speaking of embarrassment, all right, so it's been a number of years. I'm hearing an echo, but that's fine. I've number of years since we've seen Inside Out 1. Star of the show was Riley and Joy. Joy played by Amy Poehler. And we get into her mind and we see all of her emotions. The first movie was a pretty big hit. I don't know how big. I don't know how much money it made, but I think everybody looks back fondly on that. I know my sister really likes it. I enjoyed it. How did you feel about the original movie? What do you remember about it, Brian?
I remember, I really remember the memes that came out before the movie arrived, where everybody was like, yo, Pixar, they do these crazy movies. They did toys with feelings, and then they did cars with feelings, and now they're doing feelings with feelings.
That's pretty funny. Good job. Good job, internet.
And of course, like this is probably, I want to say, maybe peak Pixar, near peak Pixar, right? Like there
2015
there has been a lot of trail off since the first Inside Out came out, where we have a lot of subpar sequels and a bunch of misfires. But Inside Out, the first one, was probably peak Pixar. I remember it being a really entertaining movie. And I love that they went there, right? Like, part of what made peak Pixar what it was because they were willing to go really hard and deep on different topics and different types of storytelling that you just wouldn't see in animated family fare. So them really going hard and deep about the different emotions that are circulating through, I think she was probably like a 7-year-old or something like that. Riley, the main character in Inside Out. I think she was 7 years old or something. So going really hard and deep into the emotions that are driving her as a human being was one. It was very fresh. It was very almost profound. About trying to live with joy and sadness together, and trying to negotiate those two emotions. And so it was just a really, really solid movie. And I think it is memorable because there was nothing else like it at the time. However, I do want to say, as good as it was, or as great as it was not my favorite Pixar movie. I definitely remember thinking like, whoa, that got heavy. Like, if you guys recall in Inside Out, Riley's about to run away from home. I think she's already on the bus, like, to go back to Michigan or Minnesota or wherever her family was from. And I remember leaving the movie theater and being like, damn, that went somewhere. But especially for a family friendly movie. So it was a really a really memorable film, and one that clearly a lot of people fondly remember as well, given how well the sequel is doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they hit $1 billion in sales already.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
What was your favorite Pixar, Brian? You don't have
What's
to explain.
my favorite Pixar movie?
Yeah, did you have a favorite at the time?
Oh yeah, it's the same. The Incredibles. Oh my god.
Incredibles.
Come on.
All right.
The Incredibles aged stupid well.
Yeah.
Like, that's a movie that you can
I haven't seen it in a long time.
I rewatched it recently, and like the Dash realizing his powers and he could run on water scene. Like, I rewatched that scene.
Chef's
like,
kiss.
I watched a YouTube video that broke down why it was a good scene of him.
Oh, okay. Send it to us when you get a chance.
I'll send it. It started off with like him being anxious, scared to use his power, realizing, he can actually run on water. Then you watch his confidence swell up throughout that scene because his parents had. That movie is so good.
It's perfect, man. It's the Fantastic Four movie that
we'll never get.
Like, yeah,
never.
Because the real Fantastic
it's not
Four
gonna.
sucks.
Yeah, it can't be best. Cannot be bested.
Because the real ones are boring.
Nice. My favorite Pixar is probably WALL-E, but Monsters Inc. also high up on my list.
Monsters Inc. is definitely up there. Honestly,
Sav?
Cars 3 is up there too, but that's another
I've never seen Cars 3.
I've never seen Cars 3. Yeah.
Cars 3 is literally about him tearing his ACL and then having to basically make a comeback because he's old. It's like, it's a story that for like adults are like,
it's a KD story.
Yeah.
It's legit. Like, kids will be like, what's the big deal? And then you're an adult. It's like, oh crap, this is about facing your mortality and realize what does that mean? Especially if you've been an athlete your whole life.
Yeah, not a kid's show. Not a kid's movie.
Anyways.
All right, what'd you think of the original Inside Out?
I liked it. I actually didn't watch it until recently. Like, I watched it this week.
You were forced to watch it.
Oh, you just watched it.
I watched it so I could catch up and be ready for the pod.
Right
I enjoyed it. I had only heard good things about it. The premise was always really cool. I didn't go in thinking I wouldn't like it. I knew I would enjoy it. And I was like, it met the expectations that people around me had set for it. Like, I don't have any crazy hot takes about it, but it was a very unique concept that they executed in a very fun and unique way. And even though I have my own, I'll talk more about my opinion about the new movie. I enjoyed the first. I like the world they built. I like the concept they built, and I like how they fleshed it out in the following movie. But
Word.
I like Inside Out. Just period. It was a fun, good movie. Maybe the fact that the kid was so young, I think that's probably the only thing that can maybe make it a little bit harder for me to immediately relate to. Especially since I knew the sequel was about this character as a teenager with more complex emotions. So I think that maybe colored my lens of the movie a smidge, but not in a way that takes away from it. But I just already knew there's bigger and better things to come because I'm watching this for the sequel. But great movie.
Nice.
Great movie. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. I don't remember when I watched it the first time. I've watched it a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, surprise.
Vintage
so
West, baby.
I rewatched it this week just to kind of get ready for it, and me and Jen were both like, That I don't remember any of that stuff happening. We were both like, "Wow, that's not how I remembered that."
Is
like
your
some of the
memory
feeling stuff.
issue is it contractable? Like,
It's contagious.
yeah.
It's possible.
Maybe this is the sign that there's maybe just like a monoxide leak in y'all's room, and y'all just actually this is the sign of like, oh, we're not.
Have you checked for
brain.
asbestos yet?
It's persisted across multiple houses and multiple cars, so I don't know that
I'm trying to
that's
give
possible.
you the benefit of the doubt, player, but you're not doing.
Yeah, I don't think
easy.
that's it. I think it's just internal. So I rewatched it this week, and actually, I was telling you guys before the show, I was actually like kind of crying towards the end. I don't
kind
think
of crying or crying. Which is it?
Crying. Like there were tears in the eyes. I don't think they dropped, but they were in there.
You were welling. Yeah, welling up.
Yeah. With the, I think it was more just like when she kind of broke and Sadness takes the wheel and she kind of like tells her parents like all of these things that are sort of going through her mind and why she's really upset. And I think like probably it hits me harder now than it probably did when I saw it the first time, just because of being a dad and like knowing how hard it is for kids to process their emotions, and you as a parent always want to like protect them as much as possible from like pain and suffering and all of this stuff. And so like relating to the parents like being stressed but like missing these signs and then not knowing what's happening with the with the kid and all of that. And the kid
freaked out, didn't you?
Having the kid have to say just that, like, I'm really struggling, and that's like a hard thing for a kid to say. And she had some language around it that, like, obviously is much more mature, I think, than most 10-year-olds would have, but still pretty impactful, I think, for me to watch that as like this kid is able to like sort through her emotions and kind of the parents are able to say like, oh, we're still here, we still love you, and provide that. So I thought that was cool, and that got me a lot. So that's where I was out on Inside Out 1.
Was it almost, so on rewatch, was it almost as good as WALL-E in your eyes? Did it hit those levels? Did it hit the highs?
I think that it hit that high, but maybe not for the entire movie.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
Whereas, like, to me, I loved
a good
WALL-E,
understanding of the bar.
Yeah, I loved WALL-E through the whole thing, and was just like blown away by the beauty of it, the way they like started the story with no dialogue, but you get a characterization of WALL-E and his world and all of that, and then the mission that they're on is pretty cool. And I don't know, yeah, WALL-E hits like kind of a cool note for me as well. All right, so in Inside Out, Savon alluded to this. We get into Riley's kind of starting of puberty and kind of middle school era and rolling into high school and all of the complex emotions that go with that in terms of like your friendship. And and this is not, a groundbreaking thing that like, your parents sort of start to take a little bit more of a backseat as you get older into high school era, and your friends start to take more of a bigger role in your life and your thinking, your emotions. So that's what this movie is kind of about. By the time you got to the end of this movie, what were you guys feeling about the movie, Sav?
See, by the time we got to the end,
I
felt a lot of things. I felt like, woof. I felt multiple times like I felt personally targeted multiple times in that movie. I'm just like, hold on, what I did? I'm like, hold on, is this movie about me? What did I do?
I didn't know you played hockey. Wow,
yeah.
Michigan really got to you.
But a lot. Come on now, but between all I'm gonna be the new Mr. Hockey. But nah, man, like just the way that this movie talked about the balancing of emotions and anxiety and all that, I was like, "Oof, this is." And as someone who
this is real.
Put it like this, I'm probably someone who is maybe has anxiety, but is probably in denial about it. And
aren't we all?
I don't know. It's a good question.
A lot of weed, though, man.
Yeah, I think
I guess they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think there's maybe a little bit more of an overlap than I'm willing to concede, but that movie definitely made me think about anxiety in a way that I haven't, and it was very the movie had me in a very reflective state. Like, nice. Put it like this: when the anxiety took over and there's that scene and she has the new sense of self and it's just that really painful, I'm not good enough, I was like, oof, shit. I was like, oof, this movie is This is a very intense movie. I don't know if everybody else. Again, I'm curious about people who don't have feelings of anxiety, how they felt about parts of this movie, because I think I'm a pretty anxious person a lot, so maybe a lot of this movie resonated. I'm very curious about that because I'm wondering if that impact. Because I think the best parts of the movie to me had to do with being able to relate to it when it comes to anxiety. But I feel like if you don't really relate to that struggle, then it might be. I'm just curious how that might have impacted how certain people took in the movie.
Interesting.
Brian, I don't think I have anxiety, not in the same way that people that I know who for sure have anxiety have it. Like I've witnessed it play out and seen how debilitating it can be. So I understood the movie from that lens, and I was like, wow, this movie feels really well researched and like understood about those feelings and the role that they play in relation to other emotions as well. And also, I think a big key part of it was that they didn't make anxiety the character herself or itself as a bogeyman. Like it wasn't something big and horrific. It was also something to be sympathetic towards, and also relatable. In a way, like by the end of the movie, like you also wanted to give anxiety the character a hug. And I think, my understanding of how people are dealing with this and some of the strategies that like therapists give to people that deal with anxiety, all of that was coming through during the course of the movie, in the ways that they're trying to quell anxiety, but also in the way that anxiety was taking over Riley's mind, right? Like one of my favorite moments was when, Joy and company arrive at the imagination sector of Riley's brain, and anxiety has hijacked all the animators in there to come up with drawings of like the worst possible scenarios ever, and like keep piling on as many as they could come up with, and worse and worse and worse.
Just in case,
and that is like, to me, that was such a smart, entertaining, but like on point representation of how people's brains work when they're losing the battle to their own anxiety. And then it was really cool to see Joy flip it and try to get those Imagineers to come up with happy outcomes, to think of the positive that could occur. And I know definitely that is a strategy that I think therapists ask people to employ, like consider these alternatives as well. Like you can't just like be inundated with the worst. So like
friends in therapy or therapists that are listening to this, tell us if that's true. Is that a good strategy for people to use?
Yeah. Like, do you have animators in your head that you can give better direction to?
Oh, Brian, one thing I want to add to what you said, another piece I liked was that this movie didn't really, kind of what you were kind of hinted at, the movie didn't really have a true antagonist. Like anxiety, because anxiety, even though they were effing things up, like even in the beginning of the movie, they established that anxiety does play a role, right? In the start of the movie, Joy is kind of effing up in terms of like, hey, yo, Riley does need to kind of focus and lock in right now. Like anxiety isn't wrong about some of these general points. And even in that first interaction with the girl Val, I think anxiety actually takes charge in a way that has a desirable outcome. So I think it's a very tricky balance of being able to talk about how anxiety can be so destructive and debilitating, but it is still an emotion. And as wild as it sounds, it still plays a role in you being able to be forward thinking and be kind of like, assess risk, but like all feelings, moderation. But I'm glad that they did a good job of not just making, like I was watching the movie like, oh, there's not a villain in this movie. Cool. I'm here for it.
Joy F's up too, right? And which was true in the first Inside Out as well.
Joy was guilty of the same thing that anxiety was of. Like, remember in the beginning, Joy was like, oh, we're only going to throw away the not positive experiences. I'm like, oh, that's not how we work as people, right?
It is. And then bad things happen.
Yeah. Joy is deluding Riley.
Right.
And I feel like I have known some of those types of people too, where you're like, yo, you are really drinking the Kool-Aid over here. Like you
drinking your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you need a reality check.
Yeah, but even a bit like even I didn't think about like, oh man, thinking of my own life, like man, some of the worst things that have happened to me in my life are still a key part of who I am, and there's no universe where I would want to get rid of that or suppress that, right? Like even the movie, I was like, I didn't realize how big of a deal that was towards the end when I thought, oh wait, our negative experiences also shape who we are. And, you know, yeah, I mean, yeah, it just gave me perspective of like, this movie really did just have people doing a lot of reflecting and thinking after. I was like, oh man, I gotta go sit in the dark with some tea for a minute.
Not Antifa, with some tea for a minute.
Some anxiety, as they gave our friend at the end of the movie.
Indeed. I could smell it through the screen.
Chair like the one I'm in right now. Again, I felt like this movie was personally attacking me. Of like, oh, they got anxiety with the tea in a chair with a robe to chill the F out. I'm like,
so you're like, I do that.
Wait, was she in a robe too? I didn't catch that.
I think so.
Or did you project a robe onto her?
Maybe I projected it. But they definitely gave her the tea in the chair of just like, hey, yo, you just need to be in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You tripping.
She just needed a blunt.
You crashing out, dog.
Yeah. What if they put that in the movie for a kids movie? That'd be crazy.
Hey, teenage years, right?
Yeah. Experimentation. I don't consider myself like particularly anxious. I mean, I do have, anxiousness over like certain things, like when school is about to start or when I'm about to start something new. Like, I definitely have a lot of, anxiousness around that, or applying to jobs. I get pretty anxious or like fear-based around that kind of stuff. But I think because maybe this movie like went so hard on anxiety, and that being the central conflict between anxiety and balance, that I actually didn't relate to this movie as much as I did to the first one. And not that I relate a lot to sadness, but I think just like I related to like what is like hard about like balancing your emotions, right? And like feeling these big feelings, and how do you deal with them? Like whatever your big feelings are, I think that idea in the first movie connected with me more than like this movie, where it's more like keep your emotions kind of balanced, and like those are positive ways to deal with things. I think like that's something that I feel like I do well already, and so I wasn't like, oh yeah, this is me struggling through this thing. But yeah, that doesn't mean it wasn't good or like enjoyable. I definitely still like enjoyed this movie quite a bit.
I think it means maybe you have more of a 7-year-old brain than
also it could be that too.
Teenage brain.
Well, let me get some of that, because I was like, man, I don't want to relate to this shit.
So I was saying this earlier when I was talking about the first movie. It was like, it kind of went to some really dark places that I could not identify with, especially for such a young child. But this movie, which doesn't necessarily go to extremely dark places externally, right? Like internally, sure, with the anxiety and stuff, but externally, it's it's sports camp. She just said sports camp. That's it. And like, so all the tough things are just about social interactions. Like, oh no, I'm trying to look cool. I want people to like me. I want to set myself up to be, on the varsity team. Oh my God, like now I'm lying about things. Like I'm pretending I like stuff that I don't like, and I'm pretending I hate stuff that I actually love. Like, to me, all of that stuff felt really relatable for a teenager, and really relatable for any human being that is functioning in a society. I can't say that. Society.
Got it.
And so like those kind of interactions where you're like calculating a bunch of stuff, like to me that felt really relatable, and I kind of identified with all that stuff. The thing that I was wondering though is like, wait, isn't she she's growing up, she's a teenager, isn't this about kind of like puberty and that kind of evolution? Like they're definitely missing a key emotion here. Where's horny? Where's she at?
We're not gonna do lust.
Yeah.
We're not gonna
like,
have.
Come on. What are we talking about here?
That'll be for the PG-13 Inside Out 3 when she's in college. We'll do that. That'll be the one for later when that generation
come on,
has
Pixar,
gotten
take
older.
Us there. Let's be
think,
real.
I mean, I think you're right in that, like noticing or observation, but like thinking about how my sister went through school, the friends thing was first. Like this awkwardness around like fitting in with your friends, and then like really paying attention to what do my friends think about me, was like really a big deal for my sister as she was growing up in like that late, like early middle school era, like even a little bit into like elementary school. So I feel like it sort of makes sense that like that's what this film was around, because that is really big, especially for girls. I think also that's maybe part of why I didn't relate as much to this, because like, yeah, I wasn't like someone who was in like always in the cool group or anything like that, but I didn't have this like constant like wondering about like, are these friends genuine, or are these friends like about to leave me, like, you know, like that kind of thing. Like our friend group was pretty stable in terms of like how it went, and like we were friendly with a lot of different people, and there wasn't a lot of like infighting and gossip and that kind of thing that can kind of trip up different friend groups. So that's also too, like, somehow I missed that or avoided that, you know, in a, I don't know. I mean,
but some of that is just but some of that is just like life experience stuff, right? Like, to Brian's point, some of the stuff you don't have to be a young person or a teen to relate to it. It just has to do with like your life and what's happening in it. I can't relate to Riley having to go to camp.
No, but the friends thing was the point of it, right?
But like, but me moving to Detroit, absolutely, right? Leaving friends, but even the camp stuff, there's still like analogies to it of starting over, building your new group. Like, you can still be a grown adult and still be nervous about making new friends, saying the right things. If you say the wrong thing, you're by yourself potentially, or you won't have friends. Or if it's a job, right? I want to do this new job right. My job is why I'm in this new city. I want to make sure I don't F up. And, you know, like, you could, like I said, even I'm sure other people could do the same, but even just thinking of my own life, I'm like, shit, I could make this entire movie almost a one-to-one analogy to recent experiences in my adult life and how anxiety can still play that role, and all your other emotions as well. And like, I'm trying to figure out when I want to fit this into my thing, but like the best line in the movie was maybe when you get older you just start to experience less joy.
Y'all remember that? Yeah, I was like, oh, that's too real.
I mean, I think that's sort of the case.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not wrong, and I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, this movie was definitely made by adults.
Yeah, this movie was.
Got responsibilities.
That's like, what the hell did I do? Like, I thought we was about to be laughing about some feelings, do a few funny bits. They out here got me reflecting on my own feelings and all that. But that be said, and I was doing a little research in the movie. They said they consulted like child psychologists, therapists, actual teenagers. So to your point, Brian, you said earlier, they did do their homework of just how to try and make a lot of this very relatable. But considering that this is about a teenager, I still think they did a good job of making those teenage experiences maybe not exactly what you can relate to, but you can be at any stage in life, I think, beyond that, and be able to still think, yeah, I get it. I know what it's like to have to meet new people, start over, be unsure of yourself. Like, these are all very natural feelings. And they, like, to the point in the movie, like, that's the best thing. Anxiety doesn't go away. There's no beating anxiety. You just have to learn to adapt and live with it and incorporate it healthily into the rest of your like emotions. And that's not an easy, sexy answer to hear, but it's the truth. And I don't know. I really like this movie from just a making you think perspective.
I'm just imagining Savon at work pretending to know who Dua Lipa is, and like, oh yeah, I love her, yeah. To all his young coworkers.
I mean, look, when people at work start talking about Michigan stuff, and I kind of just gotta. You guys ever? Hey, Savon, you ever played euchre? I'm like, it's like that's me trying to like just make sense of. Wait, I'm confused. I'm lost. What's happening here? That's it. The more things change, more they stay the same.
Drinking euchre.
Yeah, euchre. Yeah, like, what's a euchre? It's a card game. Like, oh, I don't know that shit. But
all right. Yeah. Did any? I guess, Savon, it sounds like for you, the anxiety character and some of the like messages that came out of that were things that like stood out to you. For you guys, was there any like you really like latched on to one particular moment or emotion or I don't know feeling that sort of went through the movie? Brian, was there one that kind of stood out to you, or you were like, yeah, that's ooh, that was deep.
Well, I mean, my favorite emotion was the old grandma who like starts to walk out of the closet. Nostalgia. And they're like, oh, it's too soon for you. But is it? And like, like for me, that's like such a strong emotion. Yeah,
the adults
for somebody that does a podcast on comic books and shit like that, like clearly. I think like that was a key thing. But one of the moments that I loved the most was when Joy and company go to Riley's vault and see the things that she's locked away, like the PlayStation 2 like video game swordsman person,
the Cloud Final Fantasy character.
But I also love the fact that the movie embraced different styles of animation. I see across the Spider-Verse, you know, having its impact on animation, so it's not like just like pure Pixar all the time. But like just this idea that there are things being hidden away, and that kind of went along with this other plot point of Joy tossing out memories that didn't belong, right? And deluding Riley. And so like there's like a grander story that's happening here about Riley embracing everything, embracing all the memories, embracing everything in your dark past, finding out what the big secret is, which I don't know about you guys, but for most of the movie, I thought the big dark secret was that like, Riley is attracted to women or something like that and doesn't want to talk about it. But we find out later in an ends credit scene that she like
burned
lit
the
the rug on
rug.
fire or something. Like come on, Pixar, just like come on, take us there. But anyway, I like what I'm saying is like there's definitely a whole arc going on in both movies, I think, about as an individual, Riley has to come to terms with everything, good, bad, ugly, whatever, and embrace it. And I think that is such a important and actually lovely concept that I'm really happy to see portrayed in this series.
Mm-hmm.
I think what kind of stood out to me, or the thing that sort of stood out to me, was like when one like anxiety memory comes in right into the sea of whatever, into the belief systems, and it's like so powerful because it like immediately springs up like this belief of like you're not good enough, right? Or like you're gonna mess this up, or you're gonna like fail.
That's tough,
and it's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought like, man, like that is one of my biggest like hurdles. Like me personally is always like I don't want to fail at something, right? I don't think I'm gonna like I don't want to even try it if I'm gonna fail. And so to see that, it's like, oh man, just like one slight move and a slight like wrong calculation in terms of like how you're thinking about something, and all of a sudden now you have this belief that's like stuck there. Like you can't really get rid of that very easily. And then it's sort of obviously like then other like negative beliefs about herself like start to spring up, but just like from that one strong thing, and like you can sort of like really undo your sense of self. I think that was, or like distort your sense of self. And I thought that was like, to me, the thing that was most like salient to me is like, oh, you like really do have to protect how you think about things, and keep things in that balance and that perspective, because like you could not easily, but like sometimes like you can just sort of like get tilted in one way or another, and then that becomes your narrative for your own self and your self identity, and that can be really tough to get out of that hole. So I think that was the thing that was like, ooh, that's like a really really salient point to me, like personally, because it was just like, oh, you gotta like, you still have to like recognize all those other things about yourselves that you believe in order to like stay sane, right? Otherwise you just sort of like get stuck where you are. Zap, did anything like really stand out to you?
Yeah, two things I kind of touched a smidge on, but I want to go more into. The big one for me was like, yeah, man, I don't know. Like, again, I don't know. I've never been to a doctor about anxiety. This is just me knowing what I know about myself. But like, man, I was just relating really hard to all the anxiety stuff in the movie, and that just was not what I was expecting going in. That kind of like, honestly, that really threw me for a legit loop of like,
interesting.
Oh shit, this is hitting home. Like, for me, there's two powerful parts. It was, I said before, with the new sense of self had that voice now in Riley's head saying not good enough, like that. For me, that hit home. I've definitely dealt with feelings of just self-doubt and being your own worst enemy, and I never really thought too deeply about it. But when that was happening, I was like, oof, I've been there. And then the other similar vein, like, I don't think I've ever had an anxiety attack, but when she was in the penalty box, like tapping her foot, clicking, just tapping her hands, all that kind of just like I've had moments,
panic attack. Yeah,
I've had moments like that where my foot is tapping uncontrollably. I'm frustrated, whatever. I don't think it was to the extent to where I think I'm having a panic attack, but like, man, when I'm having when I'm having a moment where I'm really struggling, that's what that shit look like. Oh, Lord. So it was more of like seeing it from an outside looking in was very interesting, and also seeing it from an inside looking out. And I think in both instances, inside out,
well done.
Hey.
Bravo.
You hear me? I personally had some very interesting, just like reflections about what does anxiety look like internally, and how does it feel, and how do I give language to feelings that maybe I struggle to? But on the flip side, how is that stuff showing up to me? What are things that I just thought was maybe a quirk about myself that actually maybe it is, but maybe it ties to anxious traits I have? Like I said, I tap my foot a lot when I'm like just anxious and I don't think about it. But once and click, tap things, move around, pace. I never thought it was a big deal, but seeing how it looks in this movie just kind of made me realize, oh yeah, man, you gotta, again, normal feelings, but you have to find balance and figure out what are healthy ways to manage and cope with these emotions. Because again, the movie said my favorite point, anxiety does not go away. It's a part of you. It is an emotion that you need to be a healthy person. How do you balance it in a way that's like healthy in moderation? And even though anxiety was the villain, not the villain, anxiety was the challenge in this film, any one of those emotions could have also been at the forefront the way anxiety was, and could have done just as much damage in a different way.
Yeah, I love that they zoom into the brains of the mom and the dad at another point, and it's like a different emotion that's controlling the console, right?
In charge. And then they just put like a mustache on them all. They just give them like that one trait the parent has. So all the emotions, even though feminine ones, just have a mustache. That bit was so silly and so hilarious. I could just do versions of that bit all day, and I could just watch a show about that.
I enjoyed that more in the first one, where she was like, "Give him the look, give again."
Yeah. Or when the two discuss and each one are like going full CSI enhance zoom. We got him.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. The mom was led by sadness, but didn't. But like we didn't really get to see like her sadness kind of take over, or kind of be in charge as much. And the other thing that was kind of interesting to me was like, I don't think they could have planned for this really, because I don't think they knew where they were going in the first one. But in the first one, the parents both had their same five emotions that Riley had in the first movie. Mm-hmm. And then in this one, we learned that actually like you get a bigger console, you get like more things. And it's like, oh, where did the parents stuff their anxiety, or where is their stuff? And they sort of address that by saying like, oh, anxiety like comes out from like backstage to front, like when they need it, and then they can kind of put it back, back into their little home on the side.
Retcon.
Those parents therapists, those parents go to therapy. Maybe the parents are just really emotionally healthy.
Yeah.
And
they seem like great parents.
Yeah, they seem like good parents. Not like the parents are issuing the movie. They're very supportive. The mama already had this. Remember when they said we've been ready for this. We're just gonna plan and read the script.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Wes, that's gonna be you, player. We've been preparing for this day. I love the. Yeah, I'm just gonna. It's a retcon, but I'm just gonna give them the benefit of the doubt.
It's fine.
The parents are pretty emotionally healthy people.
Yeah, they don't let anxiety take the wheel. Take the control panel.
Who was leading the dad's control panel?
I think anger.
It was
anger.
Yeah. But that's the best part, right? Even though these are we have like these very almost caricatures of what those feelings look like. Anger for one person looks different for anger than another, and one person's anger can be way more chill. Like even Riley's anger in the movie is pretty chill, all things considered. Even though
is he?
I mean.
He's always trying to go off the deep end, and disgust or joy have to be like, whoa.
But even he had his chill moments, right? When he became friends with Pouchy and all that. I don't know.
He did become friends with
also
Pouchy.
Just like that, to your point, Wes, when they have the different emotions on different folks, they still exist on a spectrum.
Yeah.
One person's joy is not the same as another person's joy. Same with someone's sadness or whatever, or anxiety.
All right, let's start wrapping this up. Mm-hmm. Speaking of all these different emotions and who leads, if you were to go inside your Inside Out headquarters, which emotion is running the console most of the time? Who's setting the tone in there, Savon?
Oh, Lord. Anxiety at least has like a starting spot. There at least like so my analogy is that I feel like
massaging the shoulders of the other emotions.
My two emotions are probably like a Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown type dynamic where anxiety is probably more of like the Jason Tatum. and then like fear.
The real MVP is when the other guy comes forward.
And then fear is the one who's like the 1B. So I'm just being ruled
fear
by
and anxiety.
I'm just being ruled by fear and anxiety, or just
you're very productive for being ruled by fear and anxiety. So kudos to you.
hey, I overthink a lot, but I overthink and have a plan. I still act on the plan.
That's good.
It's no, it's not good. Anxiety needs to be demoted. They need to be relegated to a 6-man position.
Yeah.
They are getting way too many shots on this team. They should not be running the offense.
They're your Jordan Poole right now.
They should not be running the keys to the offense of Savon.
That's fair. Brian, who's in control of your console?
I'm probably a lot more like Riley's dad, where maybe it's not exactly anger. It's not like Lewis Black's anger. It's probably more like rage, like
just rage.
Not a stout, short, like grumpy figure, but like a roided up, like Dave Bautista is rage running the console. And but like he's strapped down. So we're holding him back, but edging just enough to get shit done. Like,
so you got a Bruce Banner. Of spite. You have a Bruce Banner in there.
Yeah. I have a Mark Ruffalo situation going on here. It's like it's like Smart Hulk happening behind the console. It's like he hasn't fully lost control. He's sort of in control, but like it's tenuous.
I don't know who's in charge of me. I feel like Goofball Island is in charge of me most of the time.
What does that mean? Is there a Goofball Island in the movie?
There is in the first one, and it's not an emotion. It's one of her like major like personality traits or something. I don't know. I just like my default is to like not take things too seriously. So which like I also have a professional self that like does take things very seriously, and you know, a parenting self that takes things pretty seriously, but you know, if I really was honest, I'd probably just want to be goofy for most of my life and enjoy that space. So
maybe it's more ennui, man. Maybe that's who's
I get
in
bored.
Charge. Yeah. Ennui is just like whatever.
Yeah, let's just do that thing. I don't know, whatever.
I don't know who was in charge for Wes. That's some.
Maybe there's no one in charge, and maybe that's the problem.
I think it's some weird. I think Wes. I think for you it's some weird mix of. I think for you, Wes, it's some weird mix of like joy and disgust.
It's possible. Yeah, it's not really joy, right?
I think for you it's joy and disgust. You seem like a pretty
joy.
You seem like a pretty like chipper type of dude, but also you very much just. I don't know, I think you get annoyed by things that I think are silly. I think disgust and joy.
Okay.
I think you're just a happy dude.
I think that's fair.
I like that.
I think that's good.
I don't like that.
I like how you guys know me better than I know me. Maybe that's also
this is just me throwing out my 2 cents.
No, I'm saying I think that sounds right. The way you explained it, I'm like, yeah, that could work. I didn't really come up with one for that. Yeah. All right, so this movie has been out actually for a month and a half. It's the biggest grossing movie of the year. It beat out Dune 2 at some point, like 2 weeks ago. Should people listening to us, if they haven't seen it yet, should they rush and go see it in theaters? If they haven't yet, before it leaves, should they wait for Disney Plus? Should they just like kind of go off of whether they think they're gonna like it or not? And if yes, if the person should rush into it, like what kind of people are you like? Yeah, you should definitely go see this. Is there what's your recommendation for the people, Sav?
Of whether they should see this movie?
Yes. Specifically, should they like make it an effort to like go to the theater and see it before it hits?
I don't think this movie is some like theatrical experience in terms of you need to see it on the big screen. Although it is a fun, pretty movie to watch, admittedly. But this movie is not carried by not to say that the art style and visuals aren't great, because they are, but that's not why you watch this movie. Okay. You watch this movie for its just really dope and creative concept, the execution, and how it can be relatable to, frankly, people of all experiences and walks of life. This isn't the type of movie that appeals to a certain crowd. It really is like a very universal message that we can all relate to. I love those kinds of movies, and I think anybody could sit down and watch this. Like, I think my mom, you should sit down and watch this. You know, any friend, homie, whatever. Like, this is a movie. Honestly, I think this is a movie that kids should have to watch in school, if I'm gonna really keep it a buck with you. Like, not saying you gotta write a paper on it, but like, this movie talks about emotions, both movies, in a way that like, kids would legitimately benefit from being able to learn these lessons about your feelings, how they interact, how they impact you, and how to regulate and balance them.
All right, I'm going to tell my principal I'm going to show movie, and it's It's for a good cause. Don't
I
worry.
think you could legitimately make an argument of, hey, I want to show segments of this movie to make a point about writing a paper on feeling. You could
don't back it up now. I want to show the whole movie.
You could do that too. I'm just saying. I think you could. There's legit academic merit in being able to make students talk about this as a topic.
Hey, we're always talking about social emotional learning.
This is part of it. This was about as balanced, and this was a great movie about those exact things.
For sure. Brian, should people go and see it in the theaters or wait for Disney Plus?
I mean, like, summer movies are a great pastime, and I think in recent years are so far and few between of really like meeting that bar.
Wait till next week, Brian.
This is one of the few ones that does, and so I recommend, like, you've probably already seen it. If you're listening to this podcast, I think you've probably already seen it. But if you haven't,
maybe
go check it out. I do think it's worth it. I will say I do agree with Savon. It's not like the most astounding visually movie, though it's great, right? It kind of feels small in a way, right? Because it's just about hockey camp, and not something like more grandiose that has huge landscapes like Dune or anything like that. But still like a joy to watch with a room full of people who get the jokes. And I do think like this movie is for adults. It's for sure, like, yes, required viewing for kids, but maybe also required viewing for adults who got some issues, especially because they did not grow up with thinking about emotional IQ and stuff like that. So yeah, there's some MFers out there who need to get in touch with their actual selves and stop lying to themselves, and by watching this movie so they can understand that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that it's better than the first movie, I think.
Oh, I thought the first was better.
So I do think it's well worth watching.
All right, different director. So interesting. All right, friends. Oh, so you both think that this one was better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought the first one was better, but I thought they were like pretty on par. I don't think if you liked the first one, you'd be at all like disappointed by this one, and obviously you guys thought it exceeded the first one, so that's pretty cool. All right, friends, we're out of here. Go see Inside Out. You can wait till Disney Plus, it sounds like, but for sure it sounds like all of us would think it's worth seeing at some point. So check it out in theaters now, Disney Plus, in probably 3 to 4 months, something like that. Friends, we're out here. See you later. Bye. Oh, next episode we're going to talk about The Boys. So if you haven't seen the finale of The Boys yet, make sure you do so. Bye. That's your homework.